Hello, my name is Ben Iuliano, and I'm a PhD candidate in the Department of Integrative Biology. I'm going to give an overview of my research promoting healthy agricultural landscapes for insects and people. When you look out across the landscape in most of the world's major agricultural production regions today, you might see something like this. Agricultural landscapes are increasingly being simplified. They retain little natural habitat, produce relatively few types of crops, are composed of large monocropped fields, and require high levels of chemical inputs. This simplification is associated with a host of negative outcomes for the environment, agriculture, and public health. In particular, it's been linked to declining populations of some insect species, what is sometimes hyperbolically dubbed the insect apocalypse. Beneficial species are especially vulnerable, while pests thrive in simple environments. This contributes to a pesticide treadmill, whereby insecticides are applied to respond to an outbreak. In the process, the natural enemies that eat these pests are killed, contributing to the outbreaks of secondary pests. Pests may also evolve resistance to the pesticide. A new pesticide must then be developed, which is increasingly difficult and costly to do. In addition to their consequences for wildlife, pesticides also pose a threat to people, especially agricultural workers and the communities around intensively managed fields. In response to these problems, many scientists and farmers seek to promote natural pest control by augmenting habitat for the natural enemies that eat crop pests. Because such organisms are mobile, understanding what they need to thrive requires thinking beyond individual crop fields, such as the one outlined in black here. Throughout their life cycle and across generations, insects may use resources from other fields on the same farm, outlined here in white, or other farms in natural areas across the landscape, indicated here by the blue arrows. More complex landscapes may benefit natural enemies in a variety of ways, but my research focuses on how it affects the continuity of key resources over time. For example, a simple landscape with just a couple of types of crops grown may leave gaps over the course of the season, shown in the bottom left. During these times, natural enemies could starve, limiting their populations. In contrast, a landscape with diverse crops and natural vegetation may provide continuous resources across the whole season, as shown in the bottom right. My research investigates how these expected dynamics play out in the real world right here in Wisconsin. I focus on lady beetles in my research, and this cartoon does a great job illustrating why. They're a charismatic group that many people are familiar with, but they also are voracious predators of aphids and other soft-bodied agricultural pests. My research addresses three broad questions. First, how and when are lady beetles using prey resources across the landscape? Second, can we design cropping systems at field and landscape scales to promote natural pest control? And third, what do farmers and other land managers think about landscapes, insects, and habitat management as a pest control strategy? To answer these questions, I use a variety of different methods. I use land cover data from the USDA to analyze and select landscapes in Wisconsin that have varying levels of complexity. I then conduct surveys of lady beetles and their prey in these landscapes to look for patterns over the course of the growing season. I also take measurements of lady beetle diets and fitness to better understand what they're eating and what the consequences may be for their populations. Finally, I'll be conducting interviews with Wisconsin farmers to learn about their pest management practices, whether they include beneficial insects in landscape design, and if not, what their constraints or limitations might be. I'll be completing my second year of data collection this summer, so stay tuned to find out what I discover. A planetary health lens is incredibly valuable for helping us draw the connections among insects, agriculture, landscapes, and people. Ultimately, I contend that planetary health necessitates working with nature to maintain an adequate food supply for humans while reducing toxic pollution from agrochemicals and conserving the diverse species, especially insects, upon which we depend. Thanks for listening, and please get in touch if you have any questions.